that she was not going to get married at all, even though she had a child. She said the marriage might not work out. I don't want my child to grow up in a broken home. You could call that a negative effect, or you could call it positive.
But for children who viewed the relationship between their parents as a battleground,
yes,
and who heard the constant fighting, for those children, now adults, the divorce was probably a calming event.
And very often it is viewed that way because they are relieved, they feel safe, they feel as if they can be taken care of, they're not constantly in the middle of the battle. And this, by the way, is not just with divorced families. Wherever there's this constant conflict, people who are growing up in those families feel very unsure and feel as if they have to take care of their parents often, and they hide their own feelings.
These no-fault divorce laws, which were in California at the time of this class, this 1982, a lot of people said it kind of diminished marriage, that it made us look too casually and not responsibly enough on marriage. You talk to these people about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I would argue that the reason we had so much divorce in my generation is related to two things, and one of those things is no-fault divorce. The other, of course, being that more and more women were in the workforce and could afford to actually support themselves instead of staying in lousy marriages. But yes, in fact, a lot of people in my class felt that no-fault divorce made their families explode.
And David writes in the article that the children of those children, so now the second generation removed from this divorce, talk about divorce in a much more casual way. So has the stigma been diminished greatly over the last two generations?
The stigma has been diminished greatly. It's much more normalized, which doesn't mean that people are not affected by it, which doesn't mean that divorce doesn't cause the feelings of loss and disappointment. But yes, it is more normalized because people used to be afraid and embarrassed to say that their parents were having difficulty, and people would find out through the neighbors because they wouldn't find out from the kids. And now we have children talking in support groups and talking to one another because there are so many people who are children of divorced
parents.
Times
have certainly changed, although I would imagine a lot of things haven't changed all that much. David, thanks very much. Dale, thank you. And you can see David's article in the current issue of Newsweek Mag. Cover story, isn't it?
Cover story of Newsweek.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And that's your latest weather. Ann?
Al, thanks. Now to a topic that the First Lady knows very well, that subject of twins. Twin births have risen a whopping 70% since 1980. And in fact, these days, 1 in every 32 births is a twin. Well, there are familiar pairs like the Olsen twins, Ashley and Mary Kate, and advice columnist Ann Landers and Abigail Van Buren. But did you know that Scarlett Johansson, Ashton Kutcher, Isabel Rossellini, Kiefer Sutherland, I think I'm going too fast, there we are, Kiefer Sutherland, Vin Diesel, Jerry Hall, and Mary Lou Henner are all twin siblings. Well, let's not forget our very own Tiki Barber, by the way, and his twin brother, Rondé. And also this morning, we've got the first twins, Jenna and Barbara Bush, who are here with their mom, First Lady Laura Bush, as well as with psychologist Dale Atkins. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
So I guess, I mean, so you're in good company being twins, although sometimes I suppose when you are a twin, you might feel, since there aren't so many of them, you know, like but what would you say, Barbara, has been good about being a twin to Jenna?
It's great to be a twin because you have a partner in everything that you do. We had so much fun growing up. Just whenever we went to new schools, we always knew somebody because we would go together. And every change you make, you have somebody to make it with. So it's very fun.
Well said. So really, there's a deep, deep friendship. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, you know, it's very rare that you would share every moment with somebody. Most siblings have a couple years in between them, and we were the exact same age. So when we were 2, we knew exactly what it felt like to go to be 2, and it's really amazing to have. We're extremely lucky, and we have a lot of fun.
Mrs. Bush, why don't you do some interviewing now here?
Exactly. Well, you know, George and I were older parents, and I know that a lot of the people, one of the reasons for a rise in twin births is that there are many older parents. As you age, you are more likely to have fraternal twins like Barbara and Jenna, who obviously are not identical. But I want to see what they think about. What do you think about your sister? Are you different, Jenna? How are you different from Barbara?
Well, we're different in a lot of obvious ways in the way that we look. But one thing, and I'm sure you would agree with this, that my parents did that I think was really great is they raised us to be different and allowed us to be whoever we wanted to be and never compare ourselves. Because if I compared myself to my sister, I don't know how far I would have gotten because she's really brilliant and great at math. And if, as a little kid, if I had always felt bad about myself, then, or if my parents had compared us, I don't know how it would have gone. So
But you did such a great job because you speak about each other in such admiring tones, so that the comparison is not rivalrous, it's generous. And you appreciate and you raise children to not only be individuals, but to celebrate their individuality. And it's not easy to do that. You also name them names that are very different.
That's right.
And that also helps for children to understand that they can grow into their own sense of who they are.
That's right, and we never called them the twins.
That's so important.
You know, they never were really that to us. They were always Barbara and Jenna, and we called them by their names.
It's an essential thing to do, and we're so, sometimes we just do it by nature, with the twins, the girls, the boys, and they wonder, well, wait a minute, what about me? Who am I? Especially if children look alike, because they need to be separate, and they need to know that they are unique and valued as they are themselves, and they need to have separate experiences, which I know you did. You fostered
That's right.
individual
they
experiences.
They actually went to separate camps. They went to separate summer camps every summer. They
For 3
were
weeks.
For 3 weeks. They were on their own, and for 3 weeks, George and I were on our own too, which was sort of nice. But I think that really gave them a chance to be separate from each other, and they appreciated each other so much more when they came home from camp after they'd been apart for a
And they
while.
could develop other friendships
That's right.
and learn that there are other people in the world.
That's right, and they do have those friendships to
Yes.
this day. They're friends that they made at camp, and now, of course, they're all friends.
And
They're
it's-
friends with all of these friends.
It's so wonderful, and you raise the issues that what we need to do is socialize our twins so that they understand that yes, they can be dear friends and devoted to each other, but there are other people in the world, so they learn how to get along with other people. Because sometimes separating twins is very difficult, and if they go to school and they've already separated from their mom and dad, then they separate from their twin, they can feel bereft. So you have to do it in stages. But if you're used to meeting other kids, it's much easier.
And so the culmination of this is not only are you close, but in fact, you're, I'm not sure you call her, but your maid of honor, you're the special girl, the woman you want to stand up with you at your wedding is not a friend, it's your sister. It's your twin sister, which is so lovely and sweet. Barbara, you must have a reaction to this.
I'm so excited.
When she
I mean, it was
asked you-
very sweet. I was thrilled when she asked me. I actually knew that they were going to get engaged the day that they did, so I was waiting at work with my cell phone.
our cell phones didn't work.
And actually, Jenna's fiance went to Barbara first to ask Barbara before he came
Yes,
to
it was
ask
very
the
sweet.
president and me.
Oh, I mean, to ask
We've
her-
already told him that on every Christmas Eve I still plan to sleep with Barbara. I'm not sure how he feels about this, but that's in negotiation.
But the sensitivity to be aware of the closeness.
Yeah.
It was very sweet.
When you bring someone into a twin relationship, you really have to be conscious of that. I also want to mention that you said that you had time by yourself with your husband. So often raising twins can be really overwhelming, and you're focused so much on the twins that you can have a tendency sometimes to forget about the relationship. And it's very important to keep that relationship alive and vibrant.
And one thing that we did when we were raising them is we had a really pretty strict schedule, which worked out the best with 2 babies. We put them to bed at the same time. They got up at the same time. We ate dinner early, fed them early, and then put them to bed so we could have the rest of the evening.
wonderful.
And we
it's made
slept
it a
in the
lot
same
easier.
room, so when we first learned how to get out of the cribs, I learned how to get out of my crib, and then I'd help Barbara. And then
Partner in crime.
Yes, we were. And then we'd run in and wake my parents up.
You talk about sleeping in the same crib, and I just want to mention that with twins, very often, we talk about in psychology a transitional object or a security object. And instead of having a security blanket or a little teddy, some twins have each other. And they really look to each other for the soothing and the comforting when their parents aren't there. And it can really be a very lovely and wonderful bond.
And as they age, as they grow into more and more adult women, and as they become older women, would seem that this bond would be so useful to them. Would you agree with that? or how-
Absolutely. Because as Jenna and Barbara mentioned, they feel so connected, and yet they still have other lives separate from each other, but they can rely on each other. They know that they're there for each other. I guess I've never done this, but when you share a womb with someone, and you hear and I don't mean room, a womb, and you hear your mother's heartbeat and you hear your sibling's heartbeat, there's a connection there that can last forever. And as long as you're nurtured to be respectful and to really love the other person, this can really manage it can help you manage life, everything that comes along, and really keep you and bring you full circle with everything that you need in life.
So great advice then, and basically for all parents of twins, to really allow yourself to nurture this lifelong closeness.
And let them be individual.
Oh, yes.
They did call themselves the womb mates.
Oh, gosh.
Dr. Dale Atkins and also Mrs. Bush and Jenna and Barbara, thank you so much.
Thank you
Really
so
good
much.
interview. And Mrs. Bush is going to give us a tour, an exclusive tour actually, of the Bush's Texas Ranch coming up in just a few moments. But first.
Thank you. Now, many new graduates are moving from the dorm room back to their old bedrooms, and that can lead to conflicts with mom and dad who thought they were gone. Dale Atkins is a psychologist specializing in family relationships. Dale, good morning to you. If the kids come home, and sometimes they do, you say you need to set up some rules from the very beginning with establishing house rules.
I think it's important because, as you say, they come back to their bedroom, but are they going to sleep till noon? I think that what we need to do is understand that this is an adult coming home, but coming into a home where there are also adults living. And so you need to establish who's doing what housework, who's contributing in what way, and what are the expectations about guests, sleepover guests, parties, alcohol consumption, using the car and then filling it with gas. What are the expectations?
And then you have to bring up the F word, as in finances with these kids.
Exactly, the finances. Are you going to be helping these kids who have $20,000 worth of debt? And if so, how? And are you going to be expecting them to pay, or are you helping them with, kind of banking money so that they can get their own apartment at some point? But you've got to talk about it, and you've got to have a plan, a financial plan.
And speaking of plan, you want to talk with them about the future. How
Yes.
long do they think they're going to be here with you and the whole thing?
So your expectations are their expectations, and every month or so you can go over it with them, and you might have a goal to say, well, you'll be here till like 6 months, but then out you are. And what are you going to do to plan to do that? I think we have to be careful about not infantilizing our children. We may be so happy they're coming home, but we need to help them become the adults they're destined to be.
It's all about respect, Dale Atkins.
It
Thanks
is.
very much. And thanks to all of our guests. And up next, working out at home with the help of the Nintendo Wii. We're going to give it a try right after this.